Well, let's look at the role of local government in enforcing a lockdown. I'm joined now by Professor Jaap De Visser from the Dullah Omar Institute. And thank you very much, Prof, for joining us. And now, your organisation, the Institute, the Dullah Omar Institute, deals with constitutional law, governance and human rights. And if we look at the role of local government in this period, we know, for example, that Metro police officers are working hand in hand with the South African Police Force and also with the SANDF. So just sketch for us, what are the roles and responsibilities of local government?
Well, aside from the issue of law enforcement, which is, as you mentioned, the Metro police services are assisting in enforcing the lockdown, but also in every municipality outside of the metros, the general law enforcement officials are assisting with. It's a responsibility that is shared throughout local government. But over and above that, there are, of course, responsibilities that local government had to undertake, such as sanitizing public transport facilities, finding food and shelter for the homeless, issuing permits to food traders, and now even identifying burial sites, even possibly mass burial sites. A grim picture being sketched that municipalities need to get involved in that. So there's been a vast array of tasks that municipalities had to perform during this lockdown.
And what is your assessment of how they've performed? I mean, particularly public transport. We know that the Transport Minister's going to be giving his briefing, I think it's on Saturday, but that is such a huge area of concern as about 8 million South Africans prepare to go back to work. It's the safe transportation of South Africa's workforce when they're supposed to be taxis that are only 70% full. And we constantly hear that that is not actually adhered to. What is the role of local government there?
Well, firstly, their role has been to ensure that those taxi ranks are sanitized. That's been a huge undertaking on the part of municipalities. The enforcement of taxi rules and regulations is something that municipal law enforcement are tasked to do. So they'll have to play a major role in enforcing the regulations. Whether or not that's going to happen adequately in practice remains to be seen. You know, with local government, it is always a mixed bag. There are 257 municipalities with varying degrees of capability and managerial sort of ability. And I think we're going to see challenges going forward and huge variation between municipalities in terms of how they're going to undertake this.
Particularly, we know that the hotspot areas are of greatest concern in terms of the rapid transmission of this disease. Now, most of those areas are in metro areas where there are more resources, but there are also a lot more people. Which areas are you most concerned? If we look at some of those hotspots, of course, it's Tshwane, it's ekurhuleni, it's eThekwini, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Nelson Mandela Bay, Buffalo City.
No, I think our big cities, as you mentioned them, they are the areas of concern, and that's not unique to South Africa. All across the world, it is the cities that are bearing the brunt of the pandemic. And I think one thing that we also need to monitor going forward is the financial consequences for this on those cities and how they are coping with the triple whammy of lots of additional costs that they have to incur to play their part. A drastic drop in revenue because municipalities are collecting far less than they normally collect for their rates and services. eThekwini was reporting that it's only collecting about half of what it usually collects. And then going forward, as the economic hardship intensifies, more and more people will be non-paying municipal residents having to be provided with free basic services. So that's the triple whammy that municipalities are going to be faced with. And cities, I think, are facing a tsunami of additional tasks that they are performing and dwindling resources to fund that. And they'll be looking to national government for assistance.
Well, thank you very much for painting quite a grim picture for our municipalities already financially stressed. This, of course, is taking its toll as well. That was Professor Jaap De Visser, the director of the Dullah Omar Institute.